Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the next part of the Know Your Purpose program. And today we're going to go over the ARC, the ARC part of the Spark framework. So this covers abilities, relish, and knowledge. So let's get into it, inshallah. So here's what we're going to cover: abilities, relish, knowledge. Ability. So the lion is most handsome when looking for food. So when it does what it's kind of supposed to do, that's when it's most handsome. Rumi. So abilities. So these are natural abilities that you were born with. So you're given these at birth. It may be that you don't know it or it's lying dormant inside you. Maybe you never tapped into them. Obviously, modern school is not good at helping each person individually, apart from just general skills, athletics or reading or writing. So this is where learning styles, which we're going to come on to later, come into play, because that tells you kind of where your strengths are. Every ability that you have can be used for God. So Muhammad Ali, he's also a world-class boxer, but he was also a world-class speaker. So he used his skills to master his craft, and then his tongue was able to deliver messages about God, where people would listen, admire, and be influenced because of the respect he gained. Some people are really good at making a lot of money. Some people are writers, some people are speakers, some are mathematicians, others are artists or soldiers or florists. So everyone has got an ability that they are naturally good at or naturally talented at. If God or Allah gave you ability, He wants you to use it. You wouldn't have your skills otherwise. This was reminds me of Liam Neeson, the famous Taken quote where he's threatening the guy with the phone and he says, "Well, I do have a very particular set of skills that make me very dangerous for someone like you." So obviously he uses to get his daughter back. So you might not know what your skills are right now because chances are that you're not using it. You got yourself into a different job that was maybe away from your natural ability, or maybe you let it go in your childhood, or you haven't practiced it or anything like that. Or you might be the opposite. You might be totally aware and you might be doubling down on it. So if you haven't been given a good voice, it's likely that you aren't going to be a niche artist, even if you're really passionate about it. So you have all those deluded people who go on the X Factor or Britain's Got Talent or whatever, and they love it. Their parents are proudly saying, "Oh, they've been, my daughter's been singing since she was the age of 3, and she used to use a hairbrush as a mic and all this kind of stuff." But and then you hear them speak, and you think you're excited to hear them speak, and then they're terrible. They're tone deaf. They actually haven't got the natural ability, and a lot of things are learnable. So, for example, mentality towards things. Oh, I'm not a maths person, or I'm not a good speaker. No, that stuff you can learn. But what we're talking about here is what you're naturally gifted in. Even speaking or even singing, you can learn to an extent, but that requires practice. But what you're naturally good at, it comes very easy to you. So this is the distinction. So what do you do best, easiest? So, and also, what do people come to you for help above all else, or what sets you apart from most? So when you start thinking in a very distinctly about this stuff, when I think about this myself, I think to myself, especially when I now compare it to other people, I think, when I write, if I'm writing an article, it can, it might take me 20 to 30 minutes just to come up with a concept and have, put it all together, right? But for someone else, that might take them a full day or 2 days or a week, So writing always came quite easy to me. And then when I look back at my childhood, that's actually been a theme throughout. So everyone would always come to me, "Oh, can you help me with my essay? Can you help me with my CV? Or can you just look at the letter for me?" So it's something that it's starting, it's quite clear. So what is your onlyness? What is it that you and only you can give to the world? So ignore what other people are doing. Okay, this person's doing this by this age. Social comparison is toxic, and by focusing on it, you're actually eroding your own purpose. If you're happy and you're in control, etc., you don't think about other people. So don't erode your own confidence. Envy is ignorance, imitation is suicide. If you try and imitate others, you kill the best within you, right? So what we're trying to establish here is we need to dig deep and we need to find this natural ability that you have, because again, this is another clue towards the to what we're looking for. Okay, so that's the worksheet. Will go into prompting this and go into in a bit more detail. So let's go into relish. Let yourself be silently drawn by the strange pull of what you really love. It will not lead you astray. Rumi. So the strange pull of what you really love, essentially your passions, it's not going to lead you astray. It's telling you something. So this is our passion, our enthusiasm, what gives us spark, fuel, desire, energy. Naturally, when you do something you love, you get good at it. Passion drives perfection. How I've heard passion described and how to discover your passion. You experiment with tons and tons of things. You identify what sparks your interest. You engage deeply with those things. As you engage, if it goes from interest to true fascination, you go down this path of mastery. Fascination plus mastery equals passion. It doesn't have to be productive. So, for example, I was really, really into football, especially my team, Newcastle, and I was spending loads of the time. I'd always read up on all the stats and this player and the transfer rumours and all sorts. But what's interesting is that it might not be the most productive thing in the world. Time waste, and you can say whatever you want, but it's still an interest that I would put down. That this is I'm interested in that. People are interested in cars. People are interested in music. People are interested in all sorts of things. So what do I enjoy doing most? When do I feel fully alive? When do I lose track of time? That's another good kind of marker for this. A way of looking at this actually is looking at your YouTube history. Look at your YouTube history. What are the kind of videos you're watching and that you have been watching? Is there a theme that kind of comes out? Also, that's 3 to 5 books that you read. Because again, remember, if you look at things in isolation, you never really get the full picture. Whereas if you start looking at principles over time, these things always kind of start showing themselves. So again, all of this stuff will come out in the worksheets as we go deep into question mode to extract this from you. This is a good way of understanding it. What did you do as a child that made the hours pass like minutes? Herein lies the key to your earthly pursuits. Carl Jung. Knowledge. Specific knowledge is found much more by pursuing your innate talents, your genuine curiosity, and your passion. So that was Naval Ravikant. So knowledge. So essentially, this is knowledge that you have acquired over the course of your life. So some of it may be driven by experience. So the knowledge of handling a divorce, for example, or raising a son. So if you've raised children, or a son in particular, you have very clear, specific knowledge. This is how you raise a son versus how you would raise a daughter. They're a bit more boisterous, they're a bit more this, they're a bit more that, and so you know what that entails because you've got that lived experience of going through it. Some of your knowledge might be through your academics. So, for example, if you studied law or biochemistry, so you've got some knowledge of that. It might be through your interests. So, for example, if you love baking, you've got knowledge of how to bake a cake or what it requires and all that stuff. So, another way of looking at this is what could you teach if you had to? Another knowledge that you might have, again, we belittle things. If you speak a second language, if you speak a language other than English, you have knowledge. Even if you speak English and you speak it fairly well, that is still knowledge that you have that others don't. So, for example, you could teach non-English speakers English. So, again, we're not looking at outputs here at all. We're not looking at what you could do with this knowledge at all. We're just looking at what knowledge do you actually have. So, what do you know that others don't? Don't belittle anything. Forget it needing to be practical. Everything that you've got and you've gained is for a reason. Nothing. Remember, we don't believe that anything is random. So this is not knowledge necessarily that was taught, but it was learned, and this is actually much more significant. So after the next module, we're going to be going through life stories. So there is some crossover, but life story is more to do with your experiences and events, and how did that kind of make you feel? Whereas this is more to do with what have you learned over the course of your life in different areas. So for me, for example, you guys know my life story. So for education-wise, I could say law, right? But career-wise, you could say procurement, project management, data negotiation, product development. But in my entrepreneurship kind of career, then I've done things like branding and sourcing and marketing and logistics. And then if you want to niche down further, within marketing, for example, I could say copywriting, or I could say, you know, I could say analysis or something, or So I also know about different areas of interest I have. So obviously I'm interested in business, personal development, history, Islam, interested in the end times. So again, these are all very some it can be obscure, it can be very generic, it can be it can be niched. Even if it's silly writing, so like I told you I'm into football. When I was younger, I was really into 90s and 2000s rap because obviously I grew up with it and stuff. So again, it's something that I've got knowledge of. Obviously, I don't know what I would do with it. It's useless knowledge probably, but again, we're not judging it at this point. Just write it down. And then at the same time, what I could also say is that I worked in one of my roles at the perfume shop. It was 90 to 95% women. And so during that role, what I learned was emotional intelligence. I learned, how to, be much more understanding and all this kind of stuff, which I may not have learned had I not worked there. I also lived in a house share, with non-Muslims, for a couple of years, and so I learned things from that experience. What did that teach me? One of the websites I like to read sometimes is called The Vigilant Citizen, which is what talks about signs and symbolism in media and pop culture and stuff like that. So again, I've actually got almost like a weird, not I wouldn't say fascination, but almost like a weird understanding of things that I remember. Like whenever I see something, like even if I see like a music video or a film, I can recognize symbols and signs in it immediately. But sometimes I don't appreciate, that obviously that's unnatural knowledge. That's not knowledge that the everyday folk have. So it's that kind of thing. Think about the story of Robert Greene and the 40 Laws of Power I mentioned right at the start. The knowledge he acquired in those horrible jobs led him to write this best-selling book, which is now considered a classic. What about people? What have you learned from people that have come and gone from your life? I mean, Rumi said that be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. So there's some people in your life that literally have made a significant impact, and they were there for 2, 3, 4 years, and so some people only came to your life for maybe a term. It might be a certain teacher, or it might have been just someone who came in your life for 2 months, and it was a good experience, and then they just left. But there might be some things that you can learn from that. So what I want you to do, get brainstorming, and if it helps, you can break it down into different categories. Start generic initially, and then start getting more specific. So the first part of this exercise is just to write down as many things that you can think of that you have a decent level of knowledge in. That's more than your average person. Don't judge it, write it all down. We can analyze how useful or relevant that knowledge is later on. And it doesn't have to be about certain subjects, as I mentioned. It can be generic, i.e. you're quite persuasive, or you're emotionally intelligent, or you're a good listener. It can also be about new areas of knowledge. I'm really got a fascination with blockchain or artificial intelligence. Or it could be about history. I really am interested in the Mughal period. I'm really interested in the Ottoman era. I'm really interested in World War II. So all of these things are useful when it comes to this part of the exercise, because again, you're now going into a specific part of you which has been built up over time. So all of this again will come out the worksheets, because we're going to go deep into question mode to extract this from you, inshallah. So this is examples of what knowledge could be. So you can have musical talents, ability to pick up any instrument, sales skills, so the ability to be persuasive. Even you having an obsessive personality means that you might understand game theory pretty well. Playing a lot of games, the ability to dive deep into things and remember them quickly, and analytical skills. So the ability to absorb data, obsess about it, break it down. A love for science fiction. You absorb a lot of knowledge very quickly. So again, sometimes you need to look into your interests and come to the conclusion that way. What we're eventually going to be trying to find is what your specific knowledge is. So this is knowledge that you cannot be trained for, that you've obtained uniquely over the years. It cannot be outsourced or automated, and it feels like play for you, but it looks like work for others. It is essentially an arsenal of all the knowledge you've built up over the years and what it can be used for. If you look at me and this entire purpose program, I'm sure people out there can create a purpose program. That wouldn't be a problem. But to create it in the way that I've created it, it's taken all my unique experiences of my own life and my own journey. I don't think anyone will be able to create it exactly like this. And so that's the point, that we all have a unique output based on everything that we've experienced over the years and acquired. The most important knowledge can't be taught. It can only be learned by pursuing the things that you're curious about. Naval Ravikant. So Naval Ravikant's story is quite interesting because he is a Silicon Valley investor. He's obviously very successful, but he's successful in the sense that he's both successful financially, but he's also happy, and that's why they go to him as a guide for wisdom and these things. So, but one of the things that he says is that what I studied, or what I went deep in, is I'm very interested in new business or business ideas and new industries, and then I'm very interested in investing, making money, and thirdly I'm very interested in analytics and metrics and stuff like that. So basically, where these three things met, I do my best work, which is in the whole investment, because investing is in new industries and all that kind of stuff. So he goes that. So for me, I'm naturally outworking absolutely everyone. I'm naturally outworking everyone, because for them, they have to go to work, and people who are rivaling me, they have to go to work and do 12, 13, 14 hours just to catch up. But for me, I'm probably working 17, 18 hours a day, because I'm constantly thinking about it and constantly looking into it and reading books on it, and because it's just a natural interest to me, and stuff. So that's how this stuff can give you that competitive advantage, when at a later stage. So it takes time and energy to build this specific knowledge. You only go deep enough into an area you're passionate about, and if you're curious about the field you're digging in. The right kind of work should give you energy back as you do it. You feel energized and alive, not exhausted and burnt out. So there's no right or wrong answer. The only question is, does it work for you? So it's also highly creative. When you're creating anything, you're relying on your entire life's experiences to come to a decision. So I would say that, look, I've mentioned this because, this is just something to keep in the back of your mind, but don't worry too deeply about it for the purpose of this exercise that you're going to do. We'll get there eventually. Right now we just need to extract and just let it all out, and just vomit your ideas and onto the paper. So again, this is like where we are. We're going to be right now on the left hand side. It's just going to be I've got knowledge of X, Y, Z, blah blah blah. But when you start mapping some of this stuff together, and you start aligning some of the patterns and trends that I keep talking about, it's going to look like specific knowledge, which is then in a container, and then it's useful for a certain field. So that's just an idea of how it all works. So in terms of your action items, so the first thing is complete the via character.org to get an idea of your ability. So what this does is that you might think, oh yeah, I'm good at this, I'm good at this, I'm good at this. This is like a quiz that just helps you, and just by the way you answer the questions, it'll say to you, oh, these are your top 5 strengths that come out naturally, etc. And then the other thing is, so this is where a lot of the deep work is going to start taking place in some of these worksheets. You writing down your abilities, what you're passionate about, and the knowledge that you've acquired, and filling out those questions. So yeah, so I'll leave this one there, and I will good luck with the filling out the worksheets, and I'll see you on the next one.